Hey friends, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tzadi Zayin, Daf 97 of Masechta Yevamos. Friends, who could tell me what Daf 97 talks about? Well, we finished the 10th parak of Masechta Yevamos. We start the 11th parak. Oh my gosh, dude, friends, there are literally riddles in this page, literally conundrums on this stuff. I don't really know what I'm gonna do about it, dude. These conundrums, yeah. Anyways, well, let's jump in. So we're gonna start over here on Daf Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, about 10 lines into the page at the 2 dots. Echod ben teshanim v'chulei. So the Mishnah had said that we treat a fellow who's 9 years and a day like we treat a fellow who is 20 years old and doesn't have 2 pubic hairs. Treat him like a kohen. We have a kasha. Ben esrim shana shlevi shtei cyrus. If you have a fellow 20 years old doesn't have 2 pubic hairs, yaviu rayishu ben esrim. So they bring a proof that he's in fact 20 years old. Vu asaris. Yeah, okay, and he's a saris. We've seen this before. We'll also explain it a little better in a minute. Lo cholitz v'lo miyabim. He doesn't do chalitza and he doesn't do yibum because he's a saris. He's a saris. What do you want me to tell you? Castrato. So he doesn't lemaise. What doesn't he do lemaise? Yibum, chalitza, any of that stuff. Bas esem shonish lehevia shtei cyrus. If you have a girl who is 20 years old, also no pubic hairs. Yaviu raishi bas esem via ilonis. They bring a proof that she's 20 years old and she's an ilonis. Lo choletzes, meaning then we treat her as an ilonis. We'll see in a second what exactly it means that she's an ilonis. Lo choletzes lo misabemis, and she doesn't do chalitza or yibum. So what do we see? So we don't say that, well, look, if he or she doesn't have 2 pubic hairs, we treat them like a ketana, and let's just wait and see if they get their pubic hairs. We don't say that. We say that, no, they're an adult and they're an ilonis. So, or a saris. So how come our Mishnah is saying that a fellow who's 9 years old in a day is the same as a fellow who's 20 years old and doesn't have 2 pubic hairs? Meaning that they're both treated like a cotton. But this brisa seems to be saying that no, we don't treat them as a kohen, we treat them as a gadol who's a saris, a gadol or a gadol who's an ilonis. And for the Gemara, but it was stated about this that says Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak named Rav Husha nodulo simone saris. That is because in this brisa, when it says that we treat them as an adult, it's because it's clear they have signs of being a saris or signs of being an ilonis. It's clear that they are a saris or an ilonis. And therefore the issue is not that they are a cotton, the issue is that they are a saris or an ilonis. Fine. Omar Ravi, says Ravi Dekanami. Right, I think we had like a whole bunch of criteria, I think, recently about what makes up a saris, and Rabbi Barvu had a havmina to say that Rav Nachman was maybe a saris. Anyways, Adkama, so if this fellow or fella doesn't produce signs of being a saris and ilonis, how long until, at what point do we say, okay, the issue is not that they're a katan or a katana? Dver b'chia, Tani dver b'chia, adrov shnosav. Wait, well, I skipped. That it also makes sense that we're talking about that they dafka have signs of being a saris and ilonis, as it says v'hu asaris. It says, right, if you have to bring a ride that they're in fact 20, v'hu asaris, or v'hia ilonis, meaning that they're showing signs, that they're actually showing signs of being a saris or an ilonis. Shmamina. Fine. V'chinodu lo simone saris ad kama, and v'chilo nodu lo simone saris ad kama. Now, if they do not have signs, show signs of being a what do you say, a castrato or a castradula, so the castradula is back. So if they do not show such signs, so at what point do we say, okay, look, the issue is not that they are a katana or a cotton, the issue is that they're a castrato or a castradula, respectively. Tanit ve'ubchia ad rov shnosav. the majority of it, once he kind of hits sort of the halfway mark, once he passes the majority of his life, what's that, like 35 years, I guess? Whatever it is, at a certain point, the issue is not that they are cutting. Also, the comment of Rava, when they came before Rava, right, if they would bring a fellow or a fella to Rava to try to figure out, is this fellow a castrato, is this fella a castratala? So ikachu shamarlu zilu avaryu. So if they were weak, if they weren't eating so much, if they were weak, he would say, look, eat epis gesunte meal. Vibarya amarlu zilu akhashu. And if he was very gesunt, so they would say maybe cut off on the gesundheit. Meaning, if they were weak, they would say, "No, toughen up a shtickle, beefen up." And if you were, if they were very geschmack, so then he would say, "Why don't you weaken up a little bit?" Because because these signs of being a saris or an ilonis, or castrato and a castratala, sometimes they go away if you kind of, if you're very gesund. So then, what's a word that I gedecht? If you're a gedechte mensch, I feel like that doesn't make sense. Was there another? No, I don't think that was the word I was thinking. I think I was thinking of another word that's like a funny word also. Oh man, what's the word? I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Probably another funny word. But alright, whatever. So no, if you're very strong and healthy, so then become less strong and healthy. If you're unstrong and healthy, become more strong and healthy. Sometimes that could make a difference. Okay. Hadron Allah Isha Rabba. Well, we will come back to you. Isha Rabba. Moving on. No sin ala anusa vala mefuta. Okay, so if you have a fellow and he rapes or seduces a fellow, so he could still marry her relatives, right? Meaning, of course, a fellow cannot marry the relatives of his wife, as we're going to see in a second, and as we know. But somebody, by case of onus umafate, he could marry the children or whatever. Fine. Now, you're not allowed to sort of sleep with any of the relatives of your wife. That's not allowed. A fellow is permitted to marry somebody who was raped or seduced by his father. Or somebody who was raped or seduced by his child. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda, however, says that a son may not marry the victim of his father's rape or seduction. It says the Gemara, Tanina la Tanu Rabban. So we have a Mishnah for that which we had learned in a Brisa, which is Onas Isha, that if a fellow rapes a woman, Mutter Lisa Bita, he can marry her daughter. Okay, moving on. Nasa Isha also Lisa Bita. If a fellow marries a woman, so then he is not allowed to marry that woman's daughter. One second, we have a kasha. Haniton mina Isha, a fellow who is suspected of having a relationship with a woman, also be'imo v'vita b'achosa. So he's not allowed to be with her mother, daughter, sister. So here it's talking about a situation where they're not married, and yet he's also to be with the relatives. Midrabanon. That's only midrabanon. But one second. Our Mishnah says no sin. That lichatchila no sin ala nusa v'al mafuta. But now we're saying that midrabanon you shouldn't. Midrabanon it's also. So I don't understand. Midrabanon it's also, but the Mishnah is saying lichatchila it's allowed. So our Mishnah is talking about after death, right? So meaning if a fellow had a relationship with a woman, so then but they weren't married, so then midrabanan he cannot be with the relatives, but if she dies, so then he can be with the relatives. How do we know that you are not allowed to be with the relatives? How do I know that you're not allowed to be with the relatives of your wife, but you are allowed to be with the relatives of Anusa and Mefuta? The Tana Rabbanan, that by all of the arayas, it mentions shchiva, lying with them, sleeping with them. V'chan nemer kicha. But over here by Eshes Ish, it dafka says kicha. Lomar lach, right, taking, acquiring. Lomar lach t'ser yu derech likuchin asur Torah. That davka, the relatives are asur when when you're married, right? So when it comes to Eshes Ish and those relatives, right, davka, through marriage, all those relatives become asur. But Papa says to Abai, it says by achoso, a fellow who takes his sister, the daughter of his father, the daughter of his mother. So I don't understand. Are we saying that if we're saying that whenever it says kicha, it means marriage? What, you're marrying your sister? Obviously not. You can't marry your sister. It doesn't work. Like, it's impossible. So Amarle, so Abaye says to Papa, likuchin ksive batorah stam, harer lekicha kicha, harer leshchiva shchiva. Look, it says in the Torah kicha, if it's possible to get married, so get married. So kilu, when it comes to Eshes Ish, right, a fellow's wife, so then the relatives are only going to be asur if it's through actual marriage, but not through ones umafata. But your sister, where obviously marriage is not relevant, so then it wouldn't only be asur through marriage, which is impossible, rather simply through sleeping with your sister. That's a problem. Rava Amar says, Rava, Onas isha mutar li sabita mehacha. So Rava says that we know that we learn that if a fellow rapes or seduces a woman, he is permitted to be with her daughter from here. It says in the pasuk, Ervas bas bincho bas bitcho lo segala. So it says the erva of the daughter of your son or the daughter of your daughter do not reveal. Habas bina dida uvas bita dida gali, implying that sure, your, right, the male, the fellow, right, your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, you cannot be with. The implication being, what about your wife's? Your wife's daughter's daughter or your wife's son's daughter, you would be allowed to be with, right? If she's from a different mother, from a different father. We have a pasuk that says, Ervas isha uvita lo segala, that do not reveal do not be with a woman and her daughter as binav as bas bita lo sikach, and do not take her daughter's daughter or her son's daughter. So on the one hand, we have one pasuk that's saying specifically your own granddaughter do not be with, implying that your wife's granddaughter you could be with, and yet we have a pasuk that says that dafka, no, you can't be with a woman and her daughter and her granddaughter. So can you be with your wife's granddaughter or not? So I just did this, fine. So it depends what your relationship is with this woman. If you're married to her, then you cannot be with her daughter's daughter or her son's daughter. But if it was, only through anusa mafuta, so then if you had a child with this woman through rape or seduction, well then that in that case the relatives would be okay. That is how we learn that. The Gemara suggests, wait, why don't we turn it around? Maybe flip it around. Maybe your wife's relatives would be okay, but the relatives of ones umafata would not be okay. So, and for the Gemara, arayus she'er ksivbu b'nisuni kasher b'onsin lekasher. Look, when it comes to arayus, it talks about share, relationships, right? When it comes to, right, so a woman who you're married to, you're related to. A woman who you raped or seduced, you're not related to, and therefore we exclude the relatives of an ones and mefata. Rabbi Yehuda oser ba'anusas aviv v'chulei. So now Rabbi Yehuda, his opinion is that if a son is not permitted to marry somebody who was raped by or seduced by his father. Fine. Okay, fine. So now Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav, says Rav Gidol named Rav, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. How come Rabbi Yehuda says that a son is not permitted to marry the anusa or mafuta of his father? The pasuk says, "Lo yikach ish es eshes aviv." A fellow cannot marry the wife of his father. V'lo yigale knaf aviv, and he cannot reveal the corner, the garment of his father. Konav shura aviv, that which his father saw, lo yigale, he cannot reveal. And how do we know that when it says lo yigale knaf aviv, it's talking about anusa? Right, Rabbi Yehuda, how does Rabbi Yehuda know that when it says do not reveal the kanaf, I guess the corner of a garment of your father? So how do you know that means do not, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it means do not be with somebody who was raped or seduced by your father? Ksiv, so the Ksiv, the pasuk says, Milavi Dikra, earlier in the pasuk, right, in the previous pasuk, it says, V'nosana isha shochiv ima lavi anayra chamishim kesef. It's talking about onus, it's talking about rape, and it says that the rapist needs to pay the father of the woman who he raped 50 silver coins. So we see that that's talking about onus. Then the very next pasuk is talking about lo yikach ish as eshes aviv lo yigale knaf aviv, and we're saying that it's the same sugya, it's the same inyan. That the knaf aviv is talking about onus, and it's saying that it's not allowed. The rabbis say, well, not quite. It isn't exactly juxtaposed. Sure, it's in the part, right? Onus is discussed in the previous pasuk, but in the first part of the previous pasuk. The second part is the previous pasuk is talking about other things, and that breaks it up, and therefore lo yigale knaf aviv is not talking about onus. And the rabbis say that since there is an interruption between the part that talks about onus and the part that talks about lo yigale knaf aviv, so actually what we learn out from lo yigale knaf aviv is like Rav Anon, Dam Rav Anon Amar Shmuel, v'shomeres yavam shel aviv akasu medaber, that the pasuk is talking about a shomeres yavam of your father, right? That if your uncle dies and now your father needs to do yibum with your aunt, so you cannot marry her. My knaf aviv, kanaf aroy lo aviv lo yigale. It means that your aunt who needs to do yibum and is fit for your father, you cannot be with. But why don't we say that the issue is not because of lo yigale knaf aviv? The issue is that it's your aunt. You can't marry your aunt. We say, well, you're chayiv for two things. Chayiv for lo yigale knaf aviv, and also for not sleeping with your aunt. What about the fact that if she needs to do yibum with his father, well then she's not allowed to marry other people, including you. So therefore, the issue is not lo yigale knaf aviv. The issue is that if she's a Yevamos, she can't marry other people. So laver ole b'shlosh lavin. Well, to say that, you'd be chayiv for three things if you sleep with her: lo yigale knaf aviv, and also don't sleep with your aunt, and also you're not allowed to sleep with somebody who needs to do yibum. Or if his father dies. If his father dies, well then she no longer is going to do yibum with his father, because his father's dead. So there's no longer an issue of yivam l'shuk, but she still is his aunt, and there still is lo yigale knaf aviv. Alright? Friends, so now, somebody's yelling in the park again. So, friends, so now, we mamish get into some riddles. Honestly, I don't really know what to do here. They're just pashut riddles. Honestly, I had a funny idea. I think it's funny, which probably means that it's not. But I was thinking, today's Friday, so Lemaisa, I was zochet to be invited out for dinner tonight, and I was thinking of maybe bringing my Gemara, and to be a conversation at the table. I could go through these riddles and see if anybody can figure out what kind of strange incestuous relationship is the solution to the riddle. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea. Wonder how it'll go over. Well, with that introduction, I guess we should go weiter. I'll tell you, the reason why I have shtickle reservations here is because they're mamish riddles. Even though I've already learned it twice, I'm still gonna have to figure out what it's talking about, as I do it. And then at the end, I think I'm just not even gonna try to, it's just ridiculous at the end. It's literally a riddle. I think even if I explained it to you, you won't get it. It's so confusing. So I'm just, at the end, I think I'm just going to run through these riddles. And if you want, you can, for extra credit, you can spend time figuring them out on your own later. But at least the first ones are explainable, even if complicated. So here we go. Now that I've got you curious. Okay, here. Riddle number one. These are insane. Ach me av v'lo me aim. So, it's your brother from your father, but from a different mother. Okay? Maybe I'll just start with the solution. You know what? How about this? Instead, I don't think that there's any sense in quoting the riddle. You're probably not going to figure it out on your own anyways, quick enough anyways. Now, I'm thinking maybe it's a good idea to start with the solution. Maybe if we start with the solution, then it'll help us kind of on the path, maybe. So the solution is, it's talking about a woman who was raped by your father. With that introduction, all right, think about the dinner table tonight. Anyways, so remember, the solution is that it's a woman who was raped by your father. So ach me'av, so you have a brother from the same father, okay, velo me'em, but from a different mother, right? Because the father was married to, somebody, but then he raped somebody else. So now there's two kids, one from like the father and mother, right, from the married couple, and one from the father and the rape victim. So ach me'av velo me'em. So now you have a brother who has the same father as you, but a different mother. V'hu baila de'em, and then he's actually married to your mother. Dude, I don't understand. If we do this at every single line, we're never going to get through this stuff. But anyways, basically what happens is, you have Yaakov. Okay, Yaakov is the father. Yaakov is married to his wife, and then he rapes some other woman. Now, Yaakov also has a son, Reuven. Now, from Yaakov and from this rape situation, there was a baby, Shimon. Okay, so now Yaakov has two sons, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is his son from his wife. Shimon is his son from the rape thing. Now, Reuven is allowed to marry somebody who was raped by his father. So Reuven then goes and marries the person who was raped by his father. So now Shimon has a brother from the same father but a different mother, and that's Reuven, who's also married to his mother, because Reuven married the person who was raped by his father. So that's what it's saying. Ach me'av, I have a brother from the same father, v'lo me'em, from a different mother, v'hu baila de'em, and he's also my mother's husband, v'ana barta, and I'm the daughter of this woman, de'inse, and I'm the daughter of my brother's wife. Amram Barchamet lo Rabbi Yehuda de Maslisin. It says, Barchamet, it's clearly not like Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah, because Rabbi Yehuda says that you're not allowed to marry to somebody raped by your father, and here we're talking about somebody that Reuven did marry somebody raped by his father. Okay, now the solution of the next riddle is that it's talking about somebody who had a baby with his daughter. That's the solution of the next riddle. Somebody had a baby with his daughter. Now, if you have a baby with your daughter, so then that baby is going to be your daughter's, brother, right? I mean, if they had a son, right? A guy sleeps with his daughter, they have a son. So that son is going to be a sibling of his mother, right? Because, right, because his mother is his father's daughter. Oh, God. So he's his mother's brother and also his mother's son. Okay. So ach hu uvrihu. So this woman is saying, look, here's this boy. It's my son, but it's also my brother. Achte Anna, I'm his sister. Achte Anna dehaide darina akisvai. It was I'm his sister. Mishkachas laba v'kuchav maba abito. If you have an idolater who sleeps with his daughter and has a son, so that son will be both the son of that daughter and also the brother of the daughter. Okay, the solution to the next riddle is you have a idolater, but I guess because I don't know, whatever. You have an idolater who sleeps with his granddaughter. You have an idolater who sleeps with his granddaughter. Yeah. So you have an idolater who sleeps with his granddaughter. So now that son that's born is the daughter of the granddaughter, but also the daughter of the granddaughter's grandfather, right? Which means that it's also her, father's brother, right? Because her father's father slept with her and they had a baby. So this baby is her father's son, which is basically her father's brother. I should go through these at the dinner table. So Shalmalach Bri, so this woman says, hi there, my son. Bas achtich ana, I am the daughter of your sister. That's exactly right. Because the grandfather, this son is also the daughter of her grandfather, and therefore her sister, his sister, right? This great grandchild's sister is the mother of his own mother. So I am the daughter of your sister. That's an Ovid Kochavim who sleeps with his granddaughter. Now we're going to have the solution of the next one is a Ovid Kochavim who sleeps with his grandson. It's very similar to this one. Daloi didalu davla lipol bechu seiser peiser. Basically, she says, okay, people, I'm going to tell you a riddle. Dahai darina hu bar. Okay, this fellow is my son. Va'ana bras achva. And I'm the daughter of this achua. I'm the daughter of this fellow's brother. That's right. Fine. That's Ovid Kochavim sleeps with the daughter of his son, and then this son that's born is also the brother of his mother's father. Whatever. Okay, now I think things just get insane, and I'm not even going to try to, you could figure them out on your own later. It's just ridiculous. Beya me'ach. Okay, there's a brother, Behu'av. He's a brother, but also a father. Oh, no, I think he's my brother and my father. Vu'bal is also my husband. Vu'bar Bal, he's also my husband's son. Vu'baila de'em, and also my mother's husband. Vana Barta, and I'm her daughter. Barta de Itse, I'm the daughter of his wife. V'lo yoiv pita la'achva yasme b'nei Barte. They don't give any bread to the orphans who are the sons of his daughter. So this ridiculous situation where you have this one person who seems to be everybody's brother and son and grandfather and I don't know. But Ovid Kochavim abal imo, an Ovid Kochavim who sleeps with his mother, v'holid mimena bas, and then by sleeping with his mother he then had a daughter, v'chazer uval osa, and then he slept with that daughter, with his own daughter that he had with his mother, v'chazer zaken, and then his grandfather uvaleh slept with this daughter that he had with his mother, who he also had a daughter with, and then his grandfather also slept with her and had kids. And basically that's how you can have one person who's like everybody's father and mother and daughter and sister and brother and uncle. Okay, ana ve'at achi. Okay, wait one second. Let me I'm just gonna freaking read this in the art scroll. Because break it up. I mean, these are ridiculous. Okay, here we go. So, here's the last one. So, wait, where am I? Okay. So, okay. Ana va'at ache, you and I are siblings. Ana va'avuch ache, your father and I are siblings. Ana va'imi ache, I and your mother are siblings. That could be a situation where you have an Ovid Kochavim who sleeps with his mother, and then they have two daughters. Then he sleeps with one of those daughters, and they have a son. So the child's mother's sister, i.e. the other daughter, calls him and speaks to him this way. Okay? You and I are the children of siblings. I and your father are the children of siblings. I and your mother are the children of siblings. Okay? How is this possible? So you can actually find this in a permitted manner. You could go in Reuven sheish lo shtei banos. If Reuven has two daughters, comes Shimon and marries one of Reuven's daughters. And then Levi went and married the other one. The Karmelei braid the Shimon, the Vi braid the Levi. And so Shimon can say this whole thing about everybody being siblings and fathers and mothers, and so Shimon's son could say this to Levi's grandson. Alright, great. Okay, enjoy your dinner tonight, and let's move on. Says the Mishnah, Gyoroshin is Gairu Bonei Imo. Oh, okay. So you have a woman who converts to Judaism, and her sons convert with her. Alright, fine. Givaldi. So a woman converts to Judaism with her sons. So if they get married and then, one of the sons dies, there are no children, they do not do yibum or chalitza because gershon is gayer kekatan shnola dami, right? That when they convert, it's like they're born anew, and they're not considered like they have relations. Okay, fine. Okay. So now afilu horaso sharishon shalo b'kedusha v'ledaso b'kedusha. Now, even if the first son was conceived before the conversion, but was born right after conversion, v'asheni horaso v'ledaso b'kedusha, and the second one was conceived and born as a Jew, and the same applies to a Canaanite slave woman who was freed together with her children. So we said in the second part of the Mishnah that so even in a situation where you have this woman, when she converts, she's pregnant, and then when she gives birth to this son, so the son is a Jew. And then there was another son that was conceived and born once the mother was a Jew. Still, there would be no yibum and chalitza on account of the fact that the first brother was conceived before the mother was Jewish. Says the Gemara, Bnei Yudin Amsa. So the daughters of the sons of Yudin, the slave woman, Ishtachur, were freed. Sharilu Rav Acha Bar Yaakov leminsav nashi da'adade, and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov permitted them to marry each other's wives. Amalei Rave, right? So you have Yudin. Yudin is a slave woman. Now she had two sons who were slaves. They got freed. And we just said that slaves being freed is like these people convert to Judaism. So they were freed. I'm going to read that again. Sharlu Rav Acha Bar Yaakov leminsav nashi da'adade, and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said that they can marry each other's wives, right? There's no issue of eishasach. Amalei Rave, Rav Sheshes also. So Rave says, but 1 second, Rav Sheshes said that they would not be allowed to marry each other's wives. Amalei hu also vana sharina. So Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says einachinami. Rav Sheshes says also. I say it's mutter. Now mina av v'lo mina aim kuli amalo plige deshari. Now, if these were brothers from the same father, so then everybody would admit that, right? Meaning, if they had different mothers but the same father, so then everyone would agree that it would be permitted. Because when they convert to Judaism, then they become like a new person. Now, if they have the same mother but different fathers, everyone would agree that it's aser, because we're concerned that if people know that these brothers who have the same mother are be able to marry each other's wives, so then they might think that they might think that even by Jews you can switch wives with your mother's these siblings. So kiplige mina av umina aim, where the machlokas between Rav Sheshes and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov is when they have the same father and the same mother. Mandashari basar abba shadinon. So Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, who says that it's allowed, that they can marry each other's wives. That's because he says that when you have siblings who have the same father and the same mother, so we go based on the father, and we said that when they have the same father, so then they would be able to switch wives. Because they call him the son of so and so, the father. Whereas Rav Sheshes says, yeah, but people also refer to them as the sons of their mother, and therefore, as we said, that if they have the same mother, then they would not be able to switch wives, because we're concerned that Jewish people with the same mother might also end up doing the same thing, which would not be allowed. To those who say to those who say that Rav Acha Bar Yaakov argues even when they have the same mother, because when a fellow converts to Judaism, he's like a newborn person, and therefore even if they have the same mother, they'd be allowed to marry each other's wives, because they're not considered relatives who would not be allowed to marry each other's wives. Fine. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. So we learned in our Mishnah that if you have a woman who converts to Judaism together with her sons, lo choltzim v'lo miyadin, they're not allowed to do chalitza, right? They don't do chalitza, and they don't do yibum. My time, is it not because when these brothers convert to Judaism, they are not allowed to marry each other's spouses at all? So it's a kasha on Rav Acha bar Yaakov who says that they are allowed to marry each other's spouses. Lo, the enu b'torah is chalitza v'yibum. No, all it's saying is that these brothers don't do yibum or chalitza. That's it. V'shari la'ama v'nu na misharu. And therefore, since they don't have to do yibum or chalitza, they can marry whoever they want, including each other's spouses. Fine. They're also permitted to marry each other. V'akatani afilu. But one second. The Mishnah had said afilu, right? The Mishnah had said that afilu orasu sharishon shelo b'kedusha v'leidasu b'kedusha v'asheni orasu v'leidasu b'kedusha. We said even in a situation where the first brother was conceived when the mother was a Gentile, but born when the mother was Jewish, and the second one was conceived and born when the mother was Jewish. So it says v'akatani afilu. It says even. Now iyamar b'shlama asire. I understand if we say that the brothers would not be allowed to marry each other's spouses. Hainu dekatani afilu. I understand why it says that even in this case. Dafagav, because I might think that even though Rishon or also Shelo b'kedusha, v'ledasu b'kedusha, that even though the first brother was conceived before the mother converted to Judaism and was born afterwards, v'asheni horasu v'ledasu b'kedusha, and the second sibling was conceived and born once the mother was Jewish, uchshtei mos damu. I could argue that it's almost like they're two separate mothers. And they should, I would think that they should be able to marry each other, because each other's spouses, because it's like they're two separate mothers, and that's the chiddush. Afilu, even so, we're going to say that they're not allowed to. Afilu achi asire, even so, they're also. Eli amud sharu. But if we say that the brothers are allowed to marry each other, so my afilu. So then what does it mean, afilu? Right, then what are we learning out from this like even thing? So, and for the Gemara, what we're learning out is that even though both of them were born as Jews, and you might think that, well, if we allow them to marry each other, well then ordinary Jews will also end up marrying each other's sibling spouses. It says in Rav Acha bar Yaakov, who says that these brothers are allowed to marry each other when they convert. So, even though both were born as Jews, and maybe you can argue that, well, if we allow them to get married, then maybe other Jews who didn't convert, who were born, just Jews who were non-converts, maybe they'll also end up marrying each other. We say, even so, we're not concerned about that. Ikadam, those who say that it's taka support for Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Hachinami mistaver desharu. That taka makes sense to say that they are allowed to marry one another. Dekatani afilu, because as the Mishnah says, even in a case where one was conceived while the mother was pre-conversion and born after conversion, and the other was conceived and born after conversion, after the mother converted. Iyamar b'shlama sharu. So I understand if we say that they would be allowed to marry each other. Hainu dekatani afilu. This is why it says even that even though both of them were born as Jews, that I might be concerned that regular Jews will end up doing the same, which is a problem. Even so, it's allowed. I understand the chiddush. But if you say that they're not allowed to marry each other, then what's the chiddush of afilu, of even so? So the afagav, the rishon, are also shelo b'kedusha v'ledasu b'kedusha. Well, the chiddush is that even though the first one was conceived before the mother converted to Judaism, and the second one was conceived and born after the mother converted to Judaism, and that they're like two separate mothers, and I might think that it should be permitted, afilu achi asire. According to Mandamar, who says that it's not allowed, they're saying even so, it's still not allowed, even though I can make the argument, that it's like two separate mothers. Even so, it's still usher according to that argument. Okay, fine. Alright, should we stop here or should we go weiter? I wonder if maybe we should stop here. I don't know. What should we do, friends? Should we stop here or should we go weiter? Maybe let's go weiter, shtickle. Tashma kaminir shnei achin ta'omim. If you have two brothers who are twins, you have two twins, which means that they definitely have the same father. They're twins, right? They come from the same womb. They have the same father. Gerim, and they convert. V'chein mishuchrarim, and also if they are freed slaves. Lo chotzim v'lo miyabmin. They do not do chalitza. They do not do yibum. Ve'en chayovim mishum eishes. I mean, so obviously they have the same father and the same mother because they're twins, right? They were born together from the same mother, born together from the same, right? They come from the same father. So they don't do chalitza and they don't do yibum. Ve'en chayovim mishum eishes ach. And they would not be chayiv for eishes ach because they're not, right? When they convert, they're like, like they're born anew. Haisa orasun shelo b'kedusha v'leidasun b'kedusha. If they were conceived before the mother converted to Judaism, but born after the mother converted to Judaism, lo chotzim v'lo miyabmin, they do not do chalitza or yibum, aval chayav mishum eishes ach. But there will be a problem, right? There's issues of marrying each other's spouses. If they were conceived and born after the mother converted to Judaism, so then they're just like, they're just Yidden. So we taught in the Reisha that if, they were born as Gentiles and then they convert to Judaism, so they're not chayav for Eishes Ach. So it sounds like they're not chayav, but it's still not allowed either. Which is a kashan of Acha Bar Yaakov, who says that these brothers who convert to Judaism would be allowed to marry each other's spouses. So says Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, no, it's also not even forbidden at all. No, it's just because in the continuation of that brisa, we said that if they were conceived before the mother converted to Judaism and then born afterwards, so then we said that while they don't do yibum or chalitza, they will be chayiv for eishes ach. So because in that second part we said you are chayiv for eishes ach, so we said in the first part that you're not chayiv for eishes ach, but it's not to imply that it's not nonetheless not allowed. It actually is allowed. That is what Rav Acha Bar Yaakov would say. Should we go on a shtickle? Let's go on a shtickle. Amar Rava says, Rava, Hada Amar Rabbanan, that which the rabbi said, Ein Av Mitzri, that there's no father for a Mitzri, meaning somebody who converts to Judaism, they don't have a father, right? Because Gerish and Iskar Kakat and Shnola Dami. Lo Tema Mishum Deshtufe Bezima, Lo Yedia, don't say that the reason why a fellow who converts to Judaism it's considered like he doesn't have a father, right? It's not because we just assume that, all of the Gentiles are just running around sleeping with people and nobody can really know for sure who their father is. That's not the point. But if we knew who the father was, then he would, we would be concerned about like paternal relationships. Even in a situation where we know who the father is, and it's still irrelevant because we just had a case of two brothers who were twins. That was the same drop of semen that got divided in two and split between the two brothers, i.e., they certainly come from the same father. And even so, we still say that they don't do yibum and they don't do chalitza. So shma mino, afkir rachmano lizare. So we see that when these two fellows, when these kids convert to Judaism, the father becomes, irrelevant, even though we know that they have the same father. The pasuk says, that the flesh of donkeys is their flesh and the semen of horses is their semen. Alright. Well, I think we should finally probably stop here. Well, friends, that was Daf Tzadi Zayin of Masechta Yevamos. We wrapped up the first part of the Daf, where we talked a little bit about Ilonuses and Saruses, Castrados and Castradalas. And then we started a new parak, Nosan ala Anusa. We started a machlokes between the Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda about can one marry somebody who was raped or seduced by his father. The Chacham say yes, Rabbi Yehuda says it's a lav. We also learned that you cannot be with any of the relatives of your wife. And then we had a whole bunch of riddles, and then we get into a case of what happens when somebody converts to Judaism, so we had discussed, we saw machlokas between Rav Sheshes and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. The Rav Sheshes says that these children who convert to Judaism are not allowed to marry each other's spouses, particularly if they have the same mother. And Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says it's okay for them to marry each other's spouses because a ger sheniskar kekatan shenola dami, that a fellow who converts to Judaism, it's like he is born anew. Well, that was Daf Tzadi Zayin of Masechta Yevamos. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.